And welcome to the Ask More Questions podcast. Today I'm speaking with Tamara Driskell. Tamara, I realized that I don't know your musical leanings, and this is very, very important to me. So can you indulge me? What's a favorite band or artist or whatever that you're into?
Ooh, a favorite. I'm gonna date
Hmm.
myself. I think that everyone has like some signature songs within them that if you put them together would kind of comprise their soul. And I think if you had to put mine together, it'd be some weird combination of like Enigma and Corn.
Wow. So for the kids that don't know
Mhm.
Enigma, that was the chanting group, right?
Yes.
Yeah, like
Hmm.
chants, Mongolian chants or something like that. That
Gregorian.
yeah,
Hmm.
Gregorian. Thank you. I'm Mongolian.
Yeah.
Now
I
I'm
mean,
like,
they're also cool. The
yeah.
Who. I'm here for that too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the Who.
Hmm.
They're playing here later this year, and I think I'm gonna go see them. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was kind of a weird point in you and I are both Gen Xers, so
Hmm.
it's kind of a weird point in life where, for whatever reason, the airwaves were filled with songs by Gregorian monks just chanting. I mean, it had some drums, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, they
Um,
really overlaid it with like new age. So I really wasn't supposed to be listening to it anyway, but I was.
oh
And I,
yeah, well, you would think if anything that should have been
you
okay.
think,
But
you think.
Corn, probably not so much. Corn was
Uh-uh.
actually my first concert. So actually, I mean, it was
That's
Megadeth,
awesome.
but like Corn opened for them, and
Hmm.
nobody where we didn't know who they were, and I was just like, "What the hell is this? This is
Shoots and
amazing!"
ladders. That's my
Yeah,
shit.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was wild. So, so why weren't you allowed to listen to certain types of music?
So I grew up extremely conservative,
Uh-huh.
evangelical, to the point where I describe it almost like cult like now. My parents, bless their hearts, as they say here in Florida, were
Yeah.
very
Hmm.
sincere, devout believers. They actually met in 78 at a Holy Spirit conference at St. Cloud University.
Wow. A Holy Spirit conference. Wow.
Uh-huh. And then they got married 3 months, well, I guess 6 months later. They were engaged 3 months later and conceived me 2 months after the wedding. So they were in the middle of their own searchings, I think, as two
Hmm.
children from broken. Well, my dad was from a broken home. My mom had an abusive father before he became born
Mm,
again.
mm.
So I think there was a lot of yearning there for both structure and something outside themselves. Anyway,
Yeah.
they get together through this charismatic revival in the United States that was kind of the counterculture to the hippie movement at the time.
Hmm.
But the Pentecostalism gave them a bit of that transcendence piece. So my sister and I were not allowed to watch any most cartoons, like if it was above a G rating, and even a lot of G things where if it had
Hmm.
magic in it, we couldn't watch the Smurfs, we couldn't watch Gummy Bears, we couldn't watch, I mean, you name it. And so secular music was definitely off
Care Bears.
limits.
Care
Mm-hmm.
Bears. You
The
probably
Care Bears.
you probably watch Gummy Bears, but
Oh, no, I ate gummy bears. Yeah, did eat them. You're right. The
yes,
Care
Care
Bears.
Bears because
Mhm.
they had the heart thing, and then or
Yes, and
what
there
they
was
had something on their
magic.
chest, and yeah, it was
Hmm.
magic.
We could
Yes.
not do the Care Bear stare. It was
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
No, there was
Oh.
gummy bears, as I remember seeing it, and they were their theme music bouncing here and there and everywhere. High adventures that are beyond compare. Oh my god, I'm
Oh, that
dating
does sound
myself
kind of
now. They
familiar. Well,
are
now I'm gonna have
gummy
to.
bears.
Yeah, I'll have to
Mhm.
look that up later.
Couldn't
Maybe
watch them
maybe the
either.
Candy
So
King.
any of the
Yeah.
bears, they were all magical.
Yeah,
So
all the
not
bears,
allowed.
Smurfs, of course. So things
Hmm.
that had magic were off
Hmm.
limits.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
Satanic Panic of the 80s
Oh
was
yeah.
huge in my our household. They took that very seriously.
Yeah. I went through that too. So
Hmm.
okay. And then at what point in your life did you move past that? Were you
Not till
still
my early
in?
30s.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, it was a slow leaving for me.
Yeah. Was it one that was fueled by things within the church or the high control aspect? Was it fueled by questioning? I mean, I find that the more I talk to people, that people have different reasons for why they leave, and then eventually that just becomes like the foundation. And
Mm-hmm.
then they start piling on, they might learn a little bit more after that once they're kind of given themselves mental permission to do so. So was there anything that stands out to you? Because I realize that for a lot of people, it usually is long, meaning that you
Mm-hmm.
probably have a question here, a question there, and then one day it kind of just accelerates a little bit. Was there anything that sparked acceleration?
There was a lot. I would say one of the first big ones happened in 99. So I was 20, and my little brother, who was 10, died of neuroblastoma.
Oh, sorry.
And yeah, thank you. Until that point, my parents, again, being Pentecostal, were very big into faith healings
Mm-hmm.
and, laying on of hands. And I also saw what I felt was like a lot of hypocrisy starting to creep into my awareness,
Mm-hmm.
because I have an aunt who I believe is a Unitarian Universalist. And so she
Okay.
much more aligns with where I'm at now, but she wanted to send a pillowcase that her and all of my other relatives had held onto and had good intentions,
Mm-hmm.
holding onto this thing to send to my brother. And my parents wouldn't allow it, wouldn't give it to him.
Mm.
Said, absolutely not. Um, and then when he died, I was like, what in the hell was all this fasting and praying for? Why,
Yeah.
what do you mean there could have been unexpressed sin, or this was just God's will? So, I mean, the doors were starting to crack a little bit at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And then and then I was also engaged to be married. We broke up 3 months before the wedding because he wasn't ready to get married. And we'd already been together for 5 years at that point. So we weren't having
Oh,
sex yet,
yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
Did the thing, was going to marry
Yeah.
the kid from youth group.
Uh-huh.
Um, Desperately in love, but also couldn't wait another, you know, 4 years for law school.
Oh,
Um,
he's going to wait
yeah.
until after law school to.
Mm-hmm,
Oh,
mm-hmm.
no. That is
Yeah.
definitely a shit or get off the pot scenario if I've ever heard
Right.
one.
And we've been in contact since then. He's like, and he's an atheist now, an attorney, and he was like, we
Yeah.
should have just did the thing. And I'm like, I agree with you, but neither here nor there. But it was
Yeah.
also because of Jesus. And
Right.
so I lost my brother, we broke up on the 1 year anniversary of his death. That
Mm-hmm.
definitely sparked more things of like, what is all this rules and, bullshit for? And then college. I mean, once you start really seeing science, that's challenging. I was mortified to learn that men don't have one less rib than women. College biology, because we also went to all
Yeah.
Christian schools from fourth grade on up.
Oh, wow. You got that too. Yeah.
I mean, we were memorizing scripture backwards and forwards. We're tested on it,
Mm-hmm.
scripture drills, which is why it's interesting that now as a therapist, I do still sometimes work with conservatives, given my specialties, but that's a story for later on. So anyway, science
Mm-hmm.
creeped in. And then by my late 20s, politics. I definitely had a hard time with preaching against gay marriage,
Mm-hmm.
against transgendered individuals, and those became some of my specialties. So that was a problem for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
That's just
see.
the tip of the iceberg. You get it.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. It's those cracks, like you said, the cracks in the foundation that you've got all this kind of like dogma that
Yes.
gets passed down to you, and then you've got I don't know what to call the satanic panic, like a cultural thing within a
Yeah.
subculture.
Yeah.
It was just weird. I mean, do you remember the Geraldo special? There was a
Yes.
Geraldo special on
Oh,
TV, and I
yes.
tried to watch it, and like I ran into my parents' bedroom. I was scared, and they were like, "Oh yeah, don't watch that," and
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I didn't get to do a lot of like trick or treating things of that
We had
nature. We kind
zero.
of zero, yeah, it
We had
sucks.
to
And now,
hide. They told us that druids were still coming for virgins.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a new
Like,
one. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Well, hmm. I'm going to sit on this for a second. Wow, I'm so sorry. But
Yeah,
I get it.
we can
I
laugh at
mean,
it now. Yeah.
yeah, I know. Isn't it good that whenever you can get to the point where you can laugh at it and be like,
You
oh, that
have
was crazy.
to.
Yeah,
That's the most healing thing ever. And I've confronted my parents since then, and they're still AG.
yeah,
And they're just like, we thought we were doing the best that we could. You know, we thought we were, and I understand that. I know that you were, and I know they're still praying for my soul, but
sure.
trauma, it caused a lot of religious trauma. Again, another one of my specialties at this point.
Yeah, people that are in it don't understand how it could be traumatic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the interesting thing I think about social media, is because it allows us to sometimes, for good or for ill, spill what's going on in our brains a
Mm-hmm.
little bit about how we
Mm-hmm.
think about certain things. And there are, I've read things where people don't see that there's anything wrong with religion. And if you're only looking at the good, then I could see that. um,
Sure.
but if you don't acknowledge the bad, then you're in a cult.
Yeah, I always
So
ask people, I'm like, did you get like buddy Jesus or did you get
yeah,
hellfire and brimstone
right,
Jesus? Because it makes a big
yeah.
difference.
Well, and then it's kind of weird whenever they're kind of mixed together at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, depending on which
Yeah.
tradition you're brought up in.
Mm-hmm.
You definitely had the fire and brimstone. I mean, I grew up Southern Baptist, so I also had some fire and brimstone. You might have had a
Mm-hmm.
little bit more. But
Mm-hmm.
then, you might meet some more progressives, and, they're more buddy Jesus, like,
Yeah,
what was the movie? Dogma. Yeah.
exactly.
And so, it's tough to process that. How, after you went through that process, what was your life like? Did you struggle with, struggle is probably not the right word, but it's kind of like it's always there in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
ways. Now I have times where, throughout the most of the time during the day, I don't really think about it that much, but then I have some other moments where I'm by myself, where I get to think about how traumatic it was. And I've started to kind of understand PTSD a little bit better. I've known
Mm-hmm.
only one person. Well, I say that, but I think my dad had PTSD, but just was really, really fucking good
Mm-hmm.
at bottling that shit up. But I knew another person that ex-military and had just an absolute breakdown at work with me, and that was heartbreaking to watch.
It
And
is.
so, but I don't have those types of reactions. For me, it's more just like you're going along and you see 8 churches uh, on the same street,
Right
and
next to each
those,
other. That always cracks me up. It's like,
yeah,
do the
and,
pastors step outside and wave to one another?
yeah, and then not only that, but they're also nicer than any other house in those areas typically. But
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But and it gets a little frustrating. And then in modern, times these days, well, right now, I mean, we're supposed to have a blood moon within the next,
Tomorrow.
I think, yeah, tomorrow, which
Mm-hmm.
is
3-3 at 333. Mm-hmm.
oh wow, let's line up all the things.
All the
And
things. And six
yeah,
planets are in alignment. So if the astrology girlies are right, we are in one hell of a
yeah.
season.
So
I think it's funny that Trump started a war during retrograde. He should know better.
yeah, he should know better. He probably, I don't know, maybe he didn't consult the right people,
He
but
did not.
um but the end times rhetoric is once again rearing its head, which is
Huge.
normal. And if anybody would just read just a little bit of history, they would know that this has happened before. During World War II, there was lots of discussion, same
During
types of
every
people. I
conflict,
know,
like 2,500 years he's been coming back, and this has been
yeah,
setting it up.
yeah,
And then you
I
talk
know.
to Jews, and they're like, no, that already happened. And I'm like,
Did
yeah,
you
that
know that
makes.
40, you can Google this if you need to
Mhm.
right now, but 47% of Jews are atheists. So not like
Yeah.
really, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm
Right.
like,
Culturally.
there's a lot of me that's like, yep, those guys figured it out. Yeah, they know
Right.
what they're doing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yes, did you have these moments of still kind of like dealing with that? Like, what kind of process did that look like for you after you figured out that, you know, you didn't really go along with this anymore? But
Yeah.
um
It definitely took almost a decade, and I still have moments just when I think, oh, I'm good with it.
mhm,
Trump's reelection and the Heritage Foundation Project 2025 fucked me
mhm.
up. And it was
Yeah.
challenging, to talk to my partner now who was raised Methodist with Buddy Jesus to really help him understand this is triggering and here's why. Like, you think those people are crazy and this could never happen, and I'm
Yeah.
watching it happen because I also grew up with these fuckers. I went to
Uh-huh.
school with them.
Yeah.
We did sing, God's little soldiers, will never march in the infantry, ride through the cavalry, shoot the artillery. What is that song called?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
all of the hand
I'm in the
motions.
Lord's army. Yes.
Thank you. That.
Yeah.
My brother's tombstone says one brave soldier in God's army. Now, granted,
Oh.
my father is army, so we could go there, but I also know
Mhm.
that it was because they genuinely believed that his life and death was a testament to Christ.
Mhm.
And so, anyway, we went to youth conventions and marriage conventions, all the conventions. And every week, it was about purposefully indoctrinating people to infiltrate the government. And
Mhm.
so watching what is happening now, with even his appointee to his spiritual advisor, that Paula chick who's charismatic and was speaking in tongues
Oh
over
yeah.
him at the
Mhm.
yeah, that fucked me and my sister up watching it. It's just like
Mhm.
people go, oh, it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. It's fine.
Yeah.
And I'm going like 2/3 of Project 2025 has already been put into place.
Yeah, I mean the good news is that some of well, a lot of the court cases are holding, you
Yes,
know,
thank
so it's
goodness.
not a total loss yet, but
Right. And we'll see what
you know,
happens when the shift. I really believe, we're going to have a Democratic president next. And I think there will be a shift. But to your point, it was probably 3 years before something could happen in my life, like popping a
mhm.
tire. And I didn't instantly go, oh, it's because I didn't tie this week.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't even believe in that anymore, but my subconscious was still holding on to it. And that's what we mean by a CPTSD. It's a series of little events that rewire our brain into fight or flight over and over and over again. Every time there was a loud noise, my sister and I thought it was the rapture.
yeah.
I
Oh,
mean, and we're running to
bad.
see if our parents are still there.
Oh, rapture trauma. That's no good.
It's
I never really had
horrible.
that. So I for whatever reason,
Good
that
for
wasn't
you.
something that was a bother for me. So I don't really get too bothered. I just get bothered by people reading into stuff that I'm like, this has all happened before. I
Mm-hmm.
quoted Battlestar Galactica the other day. All of this has happened before, and all of this will
Yes.
happen again. We've had blood moons forever. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's just an
It's
eclipse.
just
It's
the
not
way
a
it
big deal.
appears. And it happens every
Yeah,
year, actually. This is not a new
yeah,
scenario. Anyway, I
not a
can't
rare
with that.
thing. You know,
Mm-mm.
but yeah, so
So, yes.
it is tough to deal, but yeah, a decade. Okay, I just wondering how much longer I got.
Mm-hmm. Very
Again,
slow.
I do find that whenever I kind of lean into it more, lean into
Mm-hmm.
the against it, if that makes sense, then
Mm-hmm.
it makes me feel better. But I think that ties into what we're going to get into here in a little bit, so I won't
Okay.
get into it too much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I am interested in hearing a little bit more about how you got into therapy and coaching. Like,
Mm-hmm.
how did that come about? I mean, tell me more.
That is fascinating. Again, a winding road. I was so jealous. My sister and I were at summer camp Christian, of course,
Hmm.
and they had an altar call, and she was, I think, 14, so I must have been 16, 17, and she felt called to be a social worker right there. I never got my calling, and I was just like, I am clearly doing it wrong. And it's also been fascinating to watch our two deconstruction journeys be slightly different because even though she was the peacemaker and the meek one, and I was always compared to her, why are you not like her? I came out of the
Hmm.
womb. There's nothing meek about me. not, not as meek as a firecracker. That's just not going to happen. But it's been fascinating to watch. She's much more angry about it, even though I bought into it hook, line, and sinker. And I think that's what was very sad for me, much more sadness and grieving, having to walk away and feel completely misunderstood. Forget where I was going with that. It was, therapy, winding journey, because she got her calling and I did not. So after high school, we'd just been raised to basically get married and make babies. And
the highest calling.
Right? And my engagement fell apart. So now what?
Yeah, your purpose is gone, right?
I wanted to go to Eastern Nazarene College in Boston. And a week before classes start, my parents sat me down and said, this is not God's will for you, because we don't believe in student loans. We don't believe in loans. We believe in cash only. So that's also part of their Christianity. So they said, we think you should go back to Japan, where we spent a third of my childhood, and teach English there at the Christian school that you went to there. Being the good, dutiful daughter, I went over there for a year.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. But that did not help me find myself or God's will for my life. Cool experience, but yeah. So came back. Go ahead.
Wait a minute. You can't just slide right back. Why? What happened? What happened in Japan?
A lot. I ended up working voluntarily, did not understand that, sleeping in the living room of this missionary family that ran the school at the church that we went to when I was a child. Someone else ended up donating part of their salary. So I was living off of less than $200 a month for like groceries and whatever, thanks to someone being kind. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how many Christian parents really preach hyper independence. And I definitely got that. I'm naturally independent anyway, but we got a double dose. I can't imagine now, as a mother of two daughters who are, how old are they now? 20 and 22. To imagine my 18-year-old on the other side of the planet. This is before cell phones. They didn't know where I was at any point in time, teaching, learning to read at the school in the morning, and then English to Japanese businessmen near Tokyo at night. Unprepared for being hit on, all that other shit that goes with that. So naive. Had to go to Korea every 90 days or so because I was on a tourist visa. My work visa never ended up getting approved.
Sure. Okay.
So, again, now I'm country hopping. They don't know where I'm at. I mean, it's just wild to think about now.
Yeah, that is wild. And you mentioned like hyper independence. I mean, I think that's kind of a Gen X trait because
it is
various reasons. I don't think our parents didn't care. I think they just thought we could handle it, and
we had to.
I don't know. Maybe they were right. Maybe
I don't know, man.
Maybe that's not so bad. I don't know. I mean, I kind of like, I see it in myself these days, a lot, this hyper independence, but I think it also leads to, problems,
it can.
forming
relationships. It did.
Yeah. Relationships, big time, because if you can, I like to say that I'm an ambivert. So, I'm totally fine talking to people and walking up to people and having a discussion. Only because I had to do that whenever I would go on these little trips that we had, and you'd go evangelize, and you learn that skill.
We did that too. Mission trips.
Go up and cold call people for Jesus.
We handed out tracts in the streets. Did you have to do that?
Yeah. Oh yeah, we had tracts and went to malls, went door to door.
Yes, we did door to door too. Evangelism explosion is what the AG has.
Yeah, but not all bad.
Now.
I
can't imagine to all those people.
Yeah, I mean, my youngest is 11, and he could probably talk to anyone, but I can't imagine sending him door to door, to talk about that.
Proselytize.
Anyway. Yeah, I know. But I'm also pretty happy being introvert in a way, meaning I
Mm-hmm.
can sit by myself and I don't need anyone to keep the conversation going. And so I guess the weird thing is that sometimes you end up feeling kind of grateful for some of your past, and
Parts of it.
then
Mm-hmm.
and be like, well, that's not so bad, I got some skills out of the deal. But overall, maybe I would have preferred to experience it a different way, like you, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure. All right,
Mm-hmm.
so you come back from Japan
Yeah.
after this experience.
And then I thought, I'm going to become a personal trainer. So I got a certificate, got certified,
Mm-hmm.
and then I thought that's not enough. Maybe I want to open like a wellness studio. This is before wellness influencers. This is more like I was thinking like gym and
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
meditation type shit. So I started a degree in biology, but as I was doing that, I ended up walking into my first psych class. And I was like, oh shit,
Mm-hmm.
I love this.
Good
My
stuff.
mom's always said everyone has their own favorite puzzle. You just got to find yours. And
Okay.
human behavior, and in
Yeah.
particular for me, mating behaviors and philosophy are definitely my favorite.
Uh-huh.
So, my sister's a social worker. Like I said, she did
Mm-hmm.
follow through with
So
that.
she
She run.
she listened to her calling and followed it.
She
So
did. She
yeah.
did. She went and she now runs the Fleet and Family Support Center at NAS Pensacola. But what's fascinating is she doesn't like talking about feelings. So she loves just handing people resources. And so, whereas I'm the exact opposite, I will just
Mm-hmm.
sit and dive deep one on one. But at the therapy part, though, as far as my specialties, actually started when I was still in the church because, again, I bought it hook, line, and sinker. So I was teaching small groups, I was teaching Sunday school, I was doing the damn thing. We were in, young marrieds, and I kept running into these women who had a ton of sexual distress and dysfunction. And I thought, this is fascinating. If
Mm-hmm.
God allegedly created us, why why are all these women struggling to enjoy their sex lives with their husbands? Is this because the pastors are teaching it wrong? I did think that was happening.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of like misinformation going out around there about like oral sex being off limits or anal sex because they're gay acts. And
Yeah. Yeah.
what? I was like, I just can't picture if at the time God existed, he was up there going, oh, I never thought they would do that. Like, not okay with that.
Yeah.
Um, and
That's
then you
funny that.
realize, right?
Yeah. I was thinking about this. I can't think of his name, but he's like an EMT and he does these reels and he's always shows like things that people might be tempted to put up
Yes.
somewhere, and he's just like,
Yes.
nope, don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Don't do it.
maybe that's how God was like, like,
Mm-hmm.
no, don't do that. So
I really don't think
I
so, though.
digress.
So, and then coming to realize that the rates of distress and dysfunction are higher in the church than outside of it.
Oh, it's
So, at
interesting.
first, during my deconstruction journey, I was really passionate about trying to fix that. I was like,
Mhm.
this is not okay. Because I wasn't out of the church yet. And also like porn addiction, which I now don't believe in per se. We could talk about what that the American Education of Sex or American Association of Sex Educators and Therapists says. But back then I was like, we can fix and heal marriages and sex lives. But
Yeah.
fast forward a few years later and a divorce and
Yeah.
more deconstruction. And I was just like, nope.
Yeah. I feel like within the last 20 years, I'm going to be really generous with my.
Mm-hmm.
I hate getting older because I feel like I'm younger than I really am.
Me too.
But yeah, but I feel like in the last 20 years that the church, I mean, I'm still in it, and some churches started to talk a little bit more, even from the pulpit, about things that were traditionally more taboo, as
Yes.
far as like, and
Mm-hmm.
and in a lot of ways I felt like we were headed in the right direction. I mean, as far as a believer in how the church was going, I was like, oh, finally somebody's acknowledging, some very real things that
Mm-hmm.
people do and enjoy, and it's okay to talk about it. And then you get into the whole like Song of Solomon's and
Yeah.
Song of Solomon, and
Song of
about how,
Solomon.
yeah, and about how that there's there's a lot of double entendres just dripping through that it's a
My
very
God, I'll never look at a
sensual
pomegranate
text.
the same again. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, it's a pretty funny emoji too.
Mm-hmm.
um but so it felt like it was going in the right direction, but at the same time, I would be in some small groups as well, and sometimes I would hear things where internally I'd be like, "Oh my God, what? Where did you come up with that idea?"
Mm-hmm.
One that stands out to me, that I've talked about before, is a guy didn't want to use lube because it was unnatural.
Yes,
You
I've
know,
heard that one too.
and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, "What?" I mean, fortunately, he was surrounded by some guys that were like, well, we don't think that that's right. Maybe everybody has like conditions that
Mm-hmm.
they might need a little aid, just like glasses or a
Come
cane or
on now.
whatever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So just use something. You don't have to make this much harder than it is. So
Spit is not enough for a lot of people, y'all.
yeah,
Just
no.
feel free to grab the lube.
It dries up really fast. Um,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I'm gonna have to put the explicit rating on the. Oh, I do that on all of them,
You
so that way you
probably will. Yeah.
say what you want.
I come
So,
with a warning.
yeah. And how long have you been doing this? Is a decade, right?
12 years. Yeah.
12 years.
In private
Okay.
practice. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, you and I found each other online, and we had a little back and forth discussion today. I think it was something
Mm-hmm.
you posted, and I was like, "Oh, wow, yeah, that's really interesting." Is about
Mm-hmm.
finding identity post. I think in the context we were discussing religion, but
Mm-hmm.
I've given it some thought and thinking about all of the ways that you have to re-find your identity. And I think it can be a lot, really. One thing for me, tattoos were off limits, right?
Yeah,
I
us
mean, that
too.
was
But
a
I now
thing.
have 3.
Yeah, yeah. So I've got
Yeah.
some. I got
Yeah.
one here, and thinking about another one soon. So,
You should.
um, and part of that came, part of the idea of getting a tattoo was spawned by a coworker who was very helpful. He's a good listener, and um, he's been with me. He's watched me deconstruct, because we've worked together a long time. And he said, "Dude, I don't understand you." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" I could take that in so many ways. And he's like, "Well, he's like, you're a pretty big heavy metal fan. How come you don't have any tattoos?" And I thought about it, and I was like, yeah, the only reason I don't have any tattoos is because of religion. It wasn't because, and I used to say that I didn't really like him, but that's not really, if I was being honest, it's not true, because I would see people and I would see their tattoos, and I'm like, that's so beautiful, that's really
Mm-hmm.
nice, and then you talk to people with tattoos and like, well, what's that mean? It's like, oh, I got drunk and I got it. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then you talk to somebody else like, what's that mean? I'm like, oh, my daughter died and I got this done. And so like they all have these stories. I mean, getting drunk, getting tattoos is also a story, right? About like, sometimes you make decisions that last for the rest of your life. So
Mm-hmm.
um and yeah, after that, I thought, man, I don't know what kind of tattoo would I get, because I think the type of person that I am, I would want something that I feel has some sort of like deeper meaning other than just, um, getting drunk and getting something just to get it. I didn't want to go out and just get one just to get it.
Right.
Although there was that question that's like in the back of your head about, what does it feel like to get a tattoo? Because I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I mean, I've heard it hurts. Does it really hurt? Does it matter where you put it on your body? So you start asking all these questions, and and then from there, I was just like, yeah, I'm going to get a tattoo. So like my first tattoo has very significant meaning to my deconstruction, and it was just in a lot of ways it felt like a billboard, even though I don't know how many people even really notice it. I mean, probably because it's on my forearm, they see it a lot, but they probably go like, what the hell is that? But it means so much to me, and that's part of me finding a new identity after I realized that the other one was just gone because for me, when faith left, the people that I knew that were involved in it, I would say 99% of them aren't in my life anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Obviously I lost my third space. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I was in the band. So,
Mm-hmm.
so finding identity is like a big thing. And I think that whenever you come out of it, that's one of the things that you're probably struggling with that you don't really know that you're struggling with until you get to the point where you're like, oh, I got to figure out who I am now. So, yeah, let's dive into that. Have you had some personal experience dealing with people that have struggled with their identity, and what's a good way to move forward?
For sure. I mean, both personally and clinically, right? I think every life is a coming of age story. You
Mm-hmm.
rightly alluded to the fact that, for you and I, religion was a big part of that. But for other people, also their sexuality, their gender, two of my specialties, but
Mm-hmm.
also, your political affiliation, your sports teams. We humans can't help but identify with things. We
Yeah.
love a subgrouping. It helps us feel like we belong to something. The problem comes when there is not a sense of separation out. There's not a higher self outside of the selves that are
Mm-hmm.
associated in these roles that we're playing.
Okay.
So we end up taking shit hella personally. And you can see that right now on the political stream for sure. But a few weeks ago with the Super Bowl, oh, forget the halftime show, just
Yeah.
even who you're rooting for, because to identify with something from the Latin, it means to make the same as. And so if
Mm.
I identify with anything, I'm telling my subconscious that I am the same as fill in the blanks. Now, it's
Yeah.
great for making quick connections. If I tell you I'm 5'3", I'm pansexual, I'm a former evangelical, I now identify as an ex-evangelical, I'm a registered Democrat, you have some sort of understanding of where I might be coming from. And you're
Right.
probably right-ish, but obviously it can't apply for the entire nuance that is me.
Yeah.
And so when a human leaves a religion, there's a lot of falling away to this huge, huge first existential question of who am I?
Mm. Yeah.
If you can't identify that, you cannot identify the other three important questions, which is why am I here? Where am I going? And who's coming with me? My entire work as a clinician revolves around those four sacred questions.
Wow. That's
Mm-hmm.
damn it. Now I got more to process. Thanks a lot. Uh, I mean,
Feel free to
it's a
hit me
good
up on
question
threads.
because while you were talking, I was thinking about like, well, what is identity? What does that mean to make like something? But but I'm not that thing,
You are not.
I'm me, but I identify, or there's a part of me that identifies with. And what does identify mean? It could be like how it makes me feel, or it could be how I want others to see me.
Mm-hmm.
And there could be some truthiness to that. In, oh, I want others to see me because this is how I truly feel like I am. Or it could be that I'm trying
Mm-hmm.
to project something that isn't accurate. So that's the thing. Like when you're, for me anyway, when you're in religion, you're never truly honest with yourself.
You
Whenever you're
can't
really
be.
wrapped up, yeah, you can't be. And I think that's actually kind of a biblical tenet, like, God's ways are higher
Are
than
higher than our
mine.
ways. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but well, why can't I experience my ways? That's I'm I
Because
I
you're born
enjoy this
into sin
journey.
and your heart is deceitful and desperately wicked. So,
Yes, yeah, I know. I killed 8 people today. And
mm-hmm.
that's just normal, I mean,
Yep.
now that I'm an atheist.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to sin. But no,
Mm-hmm.
seriously, like finding identity after all of this is done is I've found it to be both challenging and at the same time incredibly freeing, because it's opened doors to learn more about even other people's identities in ways that I never ever could have fathomed I could have possibly even paid attention to.
No, because it was us versus them.
Right. Yeah. So in going through those questions, I don't know, how do you find that people respond to that?
Most people start out with, I have no idea. And I instantly empathize and go, I know, because we were not taught, whether you were religious or not, to pay attention to your sense of self. I mean, starting with the fact that the word selfish did not exist until 1636, I believe. It was the 1630s. And it was invented by Presbyterians. So that should already tell you that there was a religious moral overture to this. Whereas before that, it really just meant what the word, the two, prefix and suffix coming together, to be conscious of self and to know where myself starts and ends, so that I can be responsible for me and not project that onto someone else to take care of myself. And so we start from this place of, science. I always find that's a beautiful grounding place to begin, where who you are is a really trippy trifold experience, between the brain, the thinking mind, and the body. But neither of them are actually who you are as a human being. Who you actually are is that third space, the awareness of it all, what the Greeks called a psyche, hence my job. The English translated as soul. Well, that's beautiful, but it's very, difficult because it's full of religious connotation at this point.
Right.
So science just calls it a conscious awareness. Human beings, thus far, although certain animals are coming really close, are the only animals on the planet that are aware of their own thinking. So if not, we would have Planet of the Apes, and they're getting close, or octopi are also really close. So are dolphins. Hope we hold
dogs,
out.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, dogs are
to a certain extent.
But cats not so much, or at least my cats don't tell me. I mean, maybe they're fully aware and they're just like, fuck you. So.
Maybe. However, we have done studies on this. The big difference is that, an animal can have classical conditioning trauma in that, you could beat an animal, and if you walk into the room, there will be a response. However, when you leave and that stimuli is not present, they're not still sitting there stressing out about, oh my God, where is he? Is he coming back? So human beings are the only animals that are capable, and to a certain extent, of that type of PTSD. So on one hand, it allows us to do amazing things, like have this great conversation right now, have great sex, make great works of art. On the other hand, it really screws with us. And in the case of walking away from something really big, like religion, or being banished from your family because you come out gay and they're not accepting, or trans, that's really difficult. I've worked with pastors who are still working in their churches, or worship leaders who have one of those extra qualifiers going on. Perhaps it's sexual. Often if they see me, it's about a sexual issue. And the pain, especially if they are kicked out, if their secret is revealed, that they're gay, or they have a fetish maybe. A lot of them end up suicidal. What does it mean if you ripped away the very thing that I had identified with? My whole worldview is cracked. And that's why we say religious trauma is one of the absolute deepest, because when you pull that God card out, what else is there?
Especially if the God card has a whole bunch of other cards attached to it, right? And then you pull it away.
Relationships. It's like
what
leaving the military.
In the bedroom, or who you can like. Leaving the military, that's a pretty good one, because when people leave there, they lose their identity, and then it's funny. My dad was a veteran. My grandpa was a veteran. And it's one of those things where it's kind of weird because my dad once told me, you can do anything you want, but you don't have to go work for that organization. I'm like, okay, understood. I got what you're saying. And he was extremely patriotic.
Right.
He put out the flag every morning and brought it in at sunset. Followed the
It
flag
sticks with
code.
you. Mm-hmm.
It meant a lot to him. I have pictures with him whenever they put up a little. I grew up in a very, very small town, and they put up a little brick that you could, like brick outlay of. It's not really a statue necessarily, but let's just call it a park, and had bricks with people's names on it of people that served, and he was very proud of that. I mean, he was happy to be part of that. And so, can you tell I have a hard time saying the word proud? Religious. Religious fucking trauma.
So
anyway,
deep.
He was proud of it. He was proud that he had served his country, and at the same time warned me that I didn't necessarily have to go do that, And so you see that identity carried with him for the rest of his life. And yet it was essentially taken away from him just because he had to get out at some point, right? And so he gets out and finds a new identity. Actually became kind of religious after that. So, which is maybe not unexpected, but have you had some successes where people have broken through? Please tell me you've made some progress with people finding new identities.
Many, many, many. I would say the vast majority of them.
That's good.
And the ones who don't, there's a lot of complex factors there, but they usually drop out before they get to their healing place. They are often seeking, understandably so, the quick fix. And when it comes to reorienting one's sense of self, it's not always one and done. It takes practice, it takes neural pruning, and it takes time to allow neuroplasticity to take over and allow for that new habit. For those of us who came out of the womb and were told from the get-go, you are inherently flawed. It's a good thing God loved you. You're just a shitty little wretch of a person. And you should be ever so grateful.
Yeah, I really hate that whenever because I know that was part of underlying aspect of just evangelical teaching is just that it goes back to Calvinism, just this idea that you're unworthy, you're lucky to be alive, and that's probably why my wife and I were very different. Whenever like her perception of God and my perception of God, they were very different between each other because I did kind of see him as like an angry guy, kind of squish you if he wanted to, but also love. And she was like, no, what about love? What about, caring about other people? I'm like, yeah, those are all important things, but he can totally squish you, and so.
Look what he did to Job. I mean, there's just too many versions of that. I mean, yes, the Bible does say God is love. And it also says to love your neighbor as yourself, but that is not what you see walking around in evangelicalism. Certainly not in Calvinists or ones.
No. The hardcore ones, the street preachers that are I born and raised in Kansas, and that's where Westboro Baptist Church, everybody knows Westboro Baptist Church, right? Fred Phelps. And so it's one of those things where you're like, man, that's too far. You're just going too far for me. And it's so, now I find it kind of humorous. It just makes me feel sad whenever they don't get out as much as they used to whenever Fred was still alive. But I did see them at Comic-Con. I think it was last year. They were out there, and what breaks my heart is whenever there are children out there holding signs, because I'm like, those kids have no idea what they're doing. They only know what you've told them, and they're adhering to it because either they were told to, or because they're so indoctrinated at that point, that they really, they can't think for themselves. They're just too young. They don't have the capacity to do that.
Me.
Yeah. So that's what really bothers me. But if there wasn't kids there, I would have stopped and had a little discussion. One, I
Mm-hmm.
talked about their marketing because it's just terrible. Well, I
That's what I
mean,
said. Has this ever worked where someone said, "Oh my
yeah,
God, you seem so wonderful. Where's your church? I can't wait to come on Sunday. What time does service start?"
I haven't hated enough people for God in my life, and you guys are really you're just what I've been looking for. So
Exactly.
yeah, I don't know. I'm
I have
planning on
had to
going to.
sit with parents of a gender questioning teen and say to them, if you want your child to have a breath of a chance at taking your spirituality seriously, you have got to approach this completely different.
Mm,
Some can, some cannot, and those are
yeah.
the ones that I, deeply worry about,
Hmm.
unfortunately.
That would be a challenge to their identity as well. I
Yes,
mean,
very much so. What
so
happens when you produce a
yeah,
gay or a trans child?
yeah.
My parents, my daughter actually went through a gender questioning phase and came out in middle school as non-binary and was using she/they pronouns. Um,
Hmm.
a lot of science on that. I mean, when she was born, they thought she had congenital adrenal hyperplasia. Turns out she didn't, but she's always had elevated testosterone. So I still think
Hmm.
that there was some hormone washing there, but that's my own belief. Um, my parents, I came to their house. We have brunch after church because they won't miss. And they had a book laying on their bookshelf that said, "How to Love Your LGBTQ Neighbor." So, on one hand, I
Yeah.
thought, okay, good for them. But on the other
Yeah.
hand, you need a fucking book to tell you how to love your grandchild and accept her as she is?
Yeah. They
What?
did. They
They
needed the
did.
book.
They
You
needed a
know.
book with, they had scriptures in it. What's fascinating to me, and I don't think we talk about this much, but both my sister and I are watching our youngest children, who are, in this case, about to be 16 and now 20, have a return to church. So we didn't
Oh,
raise them in the church after like elementary school, but they
yeah.
are now choosing to try it back out. And I'm seeing that a lot in Gen Z. So even though stats are down across the board globally, people are leaving organized religion in droves. We are seeing
Hmm.
pockets of the younger generation. I think they're looking for third space and belonging and stuff.
Yeah. I
And they're
mean,
going into they're getting the happy Jesus and Jesus raves. So they're
yeah.
both going to like the non-denominational on Sundays.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very loud
With
music and
mm-hmm.
performances,
Right, all
which
their
is,
friends are there. They're just having a good
yeah.
time. Mm-hmm.
It's so weird to me. It's foreign because when in my church, the pastor when I was growing up,
Mm-hmm.
he made it a point to be like, let's not make it too emotional because we want people to come to this from a
Yeah,
different place rather
very
than be driven by
Baptist.
emotion. And then,
Mm-hmm.
fast forward to like, 30, 20, 30 years later, and I get involved in the band and stuff like that in
Mm-hmm.
a non-denominational church. And then you start to see like, oh, okay, well, we're going to play this song at this time
Oh
because
yeah,
that's gets you in the right
it's
frame of
very
mind.
righteous gemstones. It is.
Yeah, yeah. So it it you talk about seeing how the sausage is made, the spiritual
Mm-hmm.
sausage, if you will.
Oh, for sure.
um and then those are those things where you do kind of think a little bit about it and like, well, is this manipulative? I think I just
Yes,
screwed that word, manipulative. There we go.
yes, it
But
is.
because
Well
I'm
intended, horribly misguided.
yeah, because I mean I go to a lot of concerts, but I don't feel like I'm being manipulated to buy
We're
the
trying to usher you into
concert
God's
ticket.
presence and
Yeah,
take your tithe
yeah,
and get you to, add to our conversion rate.
yeah. So the name of your handle is philosophy and foreplay. So
Yes.
I really I love it. I mean, two great topics that must
I'm
go well
saying
together, right?
they do.
So because I've watched your reels on the gram, and it's good stuff.
I'm not for
I mean, it's
everyone. I warned that. Hmm.
yeah. Well, that's okay.
It needs to be. I'm owning my identity proudly at this point. Yes.
Yeah, you are owning your identity proudly because
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like you found the thing after the thing, and you made it
Yes.
yours, and then you're just
Mm-hmm.
continuing to grow and expand that. And I think it's great. Can we
Yes.
go over the 4 questions again? Is that all
Yes.
right? All right.
I love it. It's
I
my
want,
favorite topic.
I feel like I need to write them down. Okay, what's number 1? Is who?
Who am I?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, see? Why am I here?
Yeah.
Where am I going? And who's coming with me? I have a free ebook I call the 4 Sacred Questions, and they can grab that right off my website. So
Okay.
if y'all forget, it's right there. It's
I will
important.
put it in the show notes. It will definitely be
Mm-hmm.
there. I've got some links. So who am I? So um there was a story I'd heard once about a rabbi named Akiba, I think, and he tells a
Mm-hmm.
story about. Have you heard this story about how that? Uh, I don't know. It was Roman times, and he steps outside the gate, and he heard a voice. It was like a Roman guard that said, "Who are you, and what are you doing here?" And he said, and the rabbi said, "How much do you get paid?" And the guy said, like, I don't know, like 5 drachma. He's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'll pay you 10 to stand outside my door every day and say the same thing to me.
Ask me every day.
Yeah. And I
Mm-hmm.
like that story. I have no idea if it's apocryphal or not. Probably is, but it sounded
Who
good.
cares? It's
So
good.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
so who am I? That one kind of stands, I think, by itself, because who can answer that but you, right?
Exactly.
I
Yes.
mean,
It
that's
has to
that's where
come
you have
from
to,
inside you.
yeah, you have to look in the mirror, and really kind of figure that out. And that's one of the things that I think gets lost. Why am I here? I hear this one so much. What if atheists don't believe in God, or people that don't believe in God? You don't have to be an atheist. You be an agnostic, which is just an
Yeah.
atheist that doesn't want to say the word atheist. But yeah,
Right.
so why am I here? Where do you find your purpose? And I'm like, our purpose is to fuck around and find out. Like that
That
is my purpose.
I agree with
Like
you on
you
that.
know,
I'm here to have
it's
an
it
experience.
yeah, and maybe take a nap too.
Mm-hmm.
Where am I going? Now that's a tougher one, because how do we know? We don't know, right?
Where am I going in life? Forget the eternal
Yeah,
life for a minute. Where am I going? Where are you
yeah.
heading? Like, where are your core values taking you?
Okay, where are your core
Where do you
values
know?
taking you? Yeah,
What do you
more than
want in
your
this
job,
next chapter?
you know.
Yeah, way more than their job because some people like my sister may get their fulfillment from their job, and I would say mine gets to be more fulfilling than most. But I do not live to work. I work to
Yeah,
live, and I'm very
yeah.
unapologetic at this point. After a decade in private practice, I only work 3 days a week,
Oh, nice.
and
Yeah.
yep, not going
Hmm.
back.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to be booked and not busy. That's my mantra.
Right. Booked but
Mm-hmm.
not busy. Yeah. I
Mm-hmm.
was talking the other day about how the corporate, because corporate life is weird. If you work for
Mm-hmm.
any
It is.
corporation, which they could be
Mm-hmm.
small corporations
It's
too,
true.
they could be 5-10 person, it's still a corporation. But it's kind of weird, because I just feel like work in general is just I like to say I'm an out thespian, that
Yes.
because
I
you
love
you
it.
go you go to work, and you're just putting on an act, and just today I felt like I had to lead something. I mean, it's kind of part of my gig, but I just really didn't want to. I just was like,
Yeah.
man, I just don't want to do this right now. But you put on the face and you do that,
Mm-hmm.
and so I feel that putting your identity in work is stupid, because one day you're going to come to work, and something might happen where they just can't employ you anymore, and it may
Yeah.
not even be your fault, and then what,
The
but
organization is an organism like anything else. They're looking to self protect at all
yeah,
times. So
yeah,
if
but
your
where am I?
identity is wrapped up in that, you're
Yeah,
fucked.
yeah.
Well, I would tell
uh,
people, and this is in the book too, there's a difference between your roles that you play and your soul, that higher conscious awareness space. And so
yeah,
it's really about coming back to that. I look at it as like your soul, your conscious awareness is the light behind the projector. Now I can project that Tamsness, the Tamara, into different roles. It's like a kaleidoscope or a stained glass window. Right now there are parts of me here that are having a conversation with you that are not necessarily completely necessary in my role as a mother or as a lover,
Mm-hmm.
and vice versa. But it's the same. Ideally, there's enough congruence, authenticity, that you'd be like, oh yeah, that's Tamara, that you can recognize it. So
Yeah.
psychology says a personality is just traits that are consistent enough and also unique enough that we identify them as you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I like that.
Yeah,
I'm still going to think about
you
where am I
should.
going.
Yeah.
I had my midlife crisis right before the pandemic.
Mm.
So that was rough. And the pandemic might have saved me in a lot of ways just because
Mm-hmm.
when I just didn't have anything else to think about because it was just
Right.
like, so what are we doing today? Oh, it's the same thing as yesterday. Got it. Um, so it was a lot of time of self reflection, and I was still a believer then. So it was it was not that was not a very comfortable time for me.
No, I
The
wouldn't
midlife
imagine.
crisis is not a bad thing. I think it can be actually very beneficial if you
I would like
allow
to
it to take
prescribe
its
it to
course.
everyone earlier if we could.
Yeah, well,
That's the
earlier would be
existentialist
far
in me.
better. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh man, I'm like, why couldn't I have had this at like 30? That would have been
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yes.
Would have changed, I think, a lot of things. But I don't know. I kind of feel that these days kind of feels a little back to that survival mode,
Mm.
just because of where I don't know. Do you feel any of that? I mean, I feel like we're a little bit on the same wavelength when it comes to like
Mm-hmm.
looking at our country and saying, "Oh, well, this sucks,"
Mm-hmm.
And so it to me it feels a lot like COVID all over again. Whenever COVID, like a lot of us working from home, we're waiting on fuzzy rules about. It wasn't real clear, about where
Now,
we were. It
see,
wasn't clear where we were going. Like, what are the steps to get us out of this thing? And it was kind of like based on waiting and hope, and I don't like that. I mean, I'm a very much like let's try to move the
pragmatist.
needle.
Yeah, get this
Yeah,
done,
yeah,
move
let's
forward.
get
Mm-hmm.
things going. And I that's how I feel today, and I don't think I'm alone in that. I think that
Hell
a lot
no,
of
you're
people
not
are trying to
alone.
figure out where we're going. You know, um, I'm hopeful, but that's because I watch a lot of Star Trek. So like Star
I
Trek
grew up
is
on Next Gen. That was my
yeah,
shit. At
yeah, right.
Pensacon, I got to meet the actress that played Deanna Troy, and she was a
Oh yeah,
therapist, so I thought it was,
yeah. She
yeah,
was a therapist, right?
nice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So very in tune too. Uh,
Mm-hmm. Very
but
empathic. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I have a hope for that, and I think we could get there as a society. I mean, but it won't come overnight, that's for sure. And patience is not really my style. So, but your last question, this is the big
Who's
one, I
coming
think.
with me?
Who's coming with me? Because, as I alluded to earlier, when I left, I lost a lot of the people that I thought were riding with me, and then you go to find out that they're only riding with you because you all had the same nucleus in
Mm-hmm.
faith, right? That's the thing that kind of bound
Mm-hmm.
you all together. Since then, I find myself finding my people that I have things in common with outside of that because it doesn't exist
Mm-hmm.
for me anymore, and it's a lot better because I feel trusted and I feel trustworthy because the things that are holding us together are more about the things about like who am I. So
Correct.
we have made these bonds, these connections. It's a much smaller group. We don't have coffee and donuts on a Sunday or anything like that, but sometimes we do go grab coffee and just talk
Mm-hmm.
for hours or go for walks, and I find that these are um really enriching to my life anyway, and I wish that for other people. I hope they find that. And I guess, man, now I'm starting to answer my own question about where am I going. It might be finding more of that, help to build more of that. These good questions. You should write them down and put them in a book. Uh, yeah, but the the country thing. Maybe we could
Mm-hmm.
end on that today, because as we record this, our country has once again decided to lob weapons into another country, for reasons I can't even really make heads or tails of anymore. And it happens every 15, 20 years. We decide to get into another conflict. I don't know how this helps us, but I think a lot of people have lost their sense of what it means to just be um, an American, and I don't mean that with any kind of like ultra patriotic bullshit that goes along with that, because I
Right.
learned about ethnocentrism a long time ago, and so I know that I don't have that thing of like we're number one. In fact, just the opposite. I think we're pretty far down, and it bothers me, but because I think we could be better, but also I don't. It just feels I feel stuck, and I get this at work too. Other people in my life outside of work, everybody's just kind of lost because it kind of felt like our identity has been pulled from us, like who we thought we were and who we thought our neighbors were in some cases, or our
Yes.
relatives.
Mhm.
What I don't know. Got any tips? How do we work through this?
I think, first of all, recognizing that, again, this is not a new phenomenon. It just sucks. It's a shitty part about
Mm-hmm.
being human. Humans have always had conflict over lots of things, land and religion being two huge ones. And as a diehard existential therapist, my theoretical orientation came out of the time where of existential philosophy. So, I mean, you're talking about Sartre, de Beauvoir, Heidegger. I mean, these people were fighting Nazis. So the overlap
Mm-hmm.
is not lost on me at all.
Yeah.
They were coming out of a space of how do we find meaning and purpose when our identities have been ripped out, when everything that we thought was sacred is now completely gone. If everything is meaningless, what the hell do I stand for and why?
Yeah.
So, and I'm also big on Stoicism. So now we're going back to the Greeks and the Romans. I mean, shit, you want to talk about
Mm-hmm.
conflict? They
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
plenty of it. There is nothing new under the sun. It does come down to a space of how do I find meaning and purpose, and also, in my own individual experience, while also finding space of interdependence with community. And you've already
Mm-hmm.
touched upon that. Like, can we find pockets of other people who are like minded? Can we find ways of staying out of the white noise? Because at this point, I think what makes me saddest is I can't even trust my own algorithms. I can't even trust the people that used to vouch for me. The news is not the news anymore, it's entertainment media. And even
Mm-hmm.
though I tend to swing left, oftentimes the headlines sell, and so they use emotionally incendiary language. And I'm sorry, but I'm fucking tired of having to Google things 2 and 3 times just to make sure that the facts are the facts, before I
Right.
misspeak. So I tell
Or
people
if you want to talk to somebody
mm-hmm,
else, right?
mm-hmm,
If you want to talk to somebody, like it takes so little for someone to go, well, everyone knows that chemtrails are the government controlling the weather. And then that's so easy for you to spit that out. And then now I have to spend, if I really care, to
right.
try to, enlighten you, just spend any amount of information and be like, let me tell you how planes and moisture work and stuff like that. I mean, it's a lot,
It's a
so
lot.
I feel that with you, that it is exhausting. And yeah, so not to interrupt too much, but I mean, do you
No,
find
actually,
yourself
it
doing that
resonates.
then? You're like,
I do ish, but I'm also becoming increasingly unwilling to enter into the vast majority of those conversations. I
mm-hmm,
feel like it's a lot of the goal is distraction and division. And I think that hurts us the most as people are no longer finding commonalities, which is what's most
mm-hmm.
healing. They are focused on who did you vote for?
Yeah.
And how dare you? We need to seek first to understand. Ironically, Christian existentialist Soren Kierkegaard said, once you label me, you negate me. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's so powerful. Can we practice what the Buddhists call, to be honest, uh, a beginner's mind and
Mhm.
practice just meeting people without the labels. Can I look at you, for example? We're just two humans having a conversation, and
Yeah.
without labels of Southern Baptist or AG, man,
Mhm.
woman, political, whatever the hell. Can I
Mhm.
just stay here where my toes are planted and be open to seeing you for more than that?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I didn't even think anymore about you being ass of God. That's what
Right.
my
I
friend
love it.
yeah,
Yeah.
he said his dad used to call him ass of God. Anyway, I didn't even think about any more about it until you said it just now,
Right.
and where I
See?
have had conversations with other people and I think that that's all they've heard me say is like, oh, you used to be Baptist, or you
Mm-hmm.
say, well, why don't you believe in something? And you say, well, I had a lot of things, but one of the things along the road was, you know my dad got sick and then he died, which means it's a question about God and suffering and its existence and
Mm-hmm.
pain and so on and so forth. And all they heard was the label of like, oh, your dad died and that's why you don't like God. I'm like, no, I don't even think he exists. Like, you didn't hear a word I
Exactly.
said because of the label. Yeah.
That's what I'm
So
saying. That grieves me the
yeah.
most is that we have lost our shared humanity. And so I'm
Mm-hmm.
really big on focusing on number one, what brings me individual peace. I'm spending very little time online, not to the point where
Mm-hmm.
I'm not an informed citizen. I think it's important to
Yeah.
stay informed, but also not to get caught up and add to the bullshit. I'm really big on promoting what you love rather than bash what you hate.
Mm-hmm.
So, like Mother Teresa used to say, like, if you invite me to an anti-war rally, I'm not coming, but if you have a pro-peace rally, I'll be there. And
Yeah.
I think it's a huge difference. It's a subtle
Mm-hmm.
shift, but find the people that are still doing awesome things and join them. You can put your time, energy, money towards it. And in the
Mm-hmm.
meantime, how are you spending your day? I'm huge on, ironically, biblical, but like numbering my days. And so if
Mm-hmm.
we all get on average 28,000, I have less than half of that left. I'm not here to get caught up in the bullshit. I want to go to the beach this weekend alone. I went to the beach. I read a full novel. I'm having a great conversation with you. I
Mm-hmm.
meal prepped. You know what I mean? Things that would
Yeah.
have sparked joy that if I'm sitting at 90 years old in a rocking chair, I'm not going to be like, thank God I argued with that idiot on the internet, you know?
Yeah. Well, I
As
mean, maybe. I mean, you might have been
maybe,
like, damn it, I have that
maybe.
one
And I,
saved. I'm going to go back, get that
And this is
zinger
what I
in.
tell people, like, if it is that, whatever that is for you, awesome. As far as the state of the country goes, I feel like, and we've seen this, if you go back through history, every time it gets really dark, ironically, it shakes up enough people that weren't paying
Mm-hmm.
attention. And I really
Yeah.
think that we're already seeing a resurgence in awesome in humanity. Like, we're seeing
Mm-hmm.
great, beautiful, peaceful protests. We're seeing people reach out to one another. We're seeing people check in on each other. We're seeing neighbors come in and protect one another.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think you
I
have to hold
do.
space for both. It's super dark, and I
Right.
think it's going to get better.
Yeah. I struggle with the forgiveness aspect.
Mm,
Okay. And here's,
mm,
I'll probably go into this more on a later podcast where I just do some solo thinking. But one of the things that I think about is about how I used to think about other people because of being indoctrinated in
yeah,
dogma and just time and lots of time spent in it, right? And then you come out of it, and then you have, for me, it was like an in between period where I wasn't really sure about a lot of things. It was just, I got the religion thing out of the way, and then I'll deal with everything else as it comes along. And then as it came along, I started realizing things like, oh, yeah, like there's absolutely nothing wrong with being gay. It's not right or wrong. It
mm-hmm,
just is. Oh, you're trans? Well, the day that I, had a coworker who felt open enough to confide in me and says, yeah, I don't think something's not right, and I'm going to leave this job that makes more money, allows me to work remotely, and I'm going to pursue that other path. And I was like, okay, that sounds fine. You know, so I mean, I've been exposed to things now, and my mind has changed, and I do just see people as humans. So I know that it can happen that I feel that I've changed, and then, but again, I see MAGA as terrorists, and I see Republicans as just terrible, evil people. But I realize right now, I'm acknowledging my hypocrisy in how I think about that. And maybe I'll change my mind, but I think it would be better as a society if we can find a way to heal and bring those people in rather than being us versus them. It's just so hard right now because we're in the thick of it, and the thick of really dealing with the consequences of it as well, of those decisions. And yeah, I don't know, there's a lot to process there, a lot to think about collectively. So,
and my therapist's encouragement to you is to continue. You've already cracked open the door by going, I can own the cognitive dissonance within me that goes, hey, I don't want to label you because then I negate your humanity. And if we were coming from a biblical space, your spark of divinity as well, whatever. But at the same time, never, ever has someone been convinced of something by simply combating the rhetoric on the surface. I've had a lot of really healing, eye-opening conversations. As early as like last week, I had someone who, not only are they Calvinists, they are big on like sola scriptura, as they put it. So there's,
sure.
And I'm like, okay, but we'd have to, that's a whole separate podcast. We'd have to argue about whose interpretation of scripture. But anyway, and the end times theology, when talking about the war, because a lot of military members that I work with, are having a hard time watching this happen all over again. Like, what was their whole career for if they served in, Desert Storm, right?
Yeah.
But my point is, like, when I can sit there and have a deeper conversation about, tell me where this is coming from, not using political language. I have found every single time we have so much shared, like we both want a safe country. We both want babies to be fed. They're so indoctrinated. It's no different than I was. You talk about those children sitting on the street corner. And I just think of that. I think of little Tamara, who thought that she was responsible for her neighbor's soul, that when if she did not find a way, and I was terrified to do it because I was easily embarrassed, to proselytize at the sleepovers, if she died, it was my fault.
Yeah, you didn't say anything. So,
all right. So heavy. And knowing that this is genuinely how a lot of MAGA are feeling, like, even to the point that I am looking at them as a cult and I am referring to them as just this label, and yet if I did not know that and it doesn't come up and we're just having coffee, I would actually enjoy this person. Not always, because sometimes they wear their views on their sleeve,
Right.
But I think
if they wear the clothes and the hat and the pants to coffee, man, you might actually be in a cult there.
They're all in a cult, I think, but oftentimes you don't know that. And I didn't know it either until suddenly I was like, oh, wait a minute. We're all, it's like the emperor has no clothes. What?
Right. Yeah.
No one's going to tell me?
Oh. Well, this, you've left us with some great questions and to think about, to ask ourselves. And it certainly falls in line with the heart of what I'm trying to do here, where I'm going. So, thank you for coming along on the ride with me. I really appreciate it.
My honor. Thank you for the opportunity.